I have in my possession the handwritten Tupac letter dated July 30th, 1995, that proves that Death Row could have signed Tupac Shakur to a record deal 3 months before he was even released from prison. Why didn't they? Also, Reggie Wright Jr. chooses to lie over the truth when the truth was actually more beneficial to his story, but he boxed himself in with the lie. Also, Reggie Wright Jr. has told us he ran Death Row while Suge Knight was in prison. That's not true, according to these court documents, in Suge Knight's own words. Let's get into some of this straight game.
Yeah. Blackjack. Life is like a game of cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Blackjack. To play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY, Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor, please, and hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel. Tell a friend. And most importantly, if you're new to the channel and would like to be notified first when I drop some of this straight game, do me a favor and hit the bell notification right below this video. I'm going to get right into it. What I bring to you today is fact and documentation, and I'm gonna show you how this is all interwoven, right? The lies versus the truth versus what people want you to think because they're just talking, right? And so I'm gonna get into it like this. Most people think that the September 16th, 1995 letter with Tupac basically corresponding with David Kenner and Suge Knight was their first interaction, and that's not true. What I have right here is a letter handwritten by Tupac to David Kenner, giving David Kenner permission to receive copies of Tupac's contracts and royalty statements from Interscope at that particular time. And you know that because of the date that it's actually dated, July 30th, 1995. Why is this important? Tupac could have gave David Kenner permission through a jailhouse phone conversation. He didn't. The reason why is because that's not legal and binding, right? Especially when you're handling your business and you're giving somebody permission or the power to represent you or do things on your behalf, should I say. And so the letter basically says, to whom it may concern. And to whom it may concern would be whoever's at Interscope when he goes over there basically to give this letter to them so that he's able to get Tupac's contracts and his royalty statements. To ASCAP, whoever, this is a broad letter right here. I'm going to have you understand from what I understand about the music business. So to whom it may concern, I, Tupac Shakur, give David Kenner permission to receive copies of my contracts and royalty statements. And also, he has permission to negotiate on my behalf. However, he may not close or finalize any deal without my approval. This is just a letter to authorize Mr. Kenner to negotiate on my behalf. Thank you, Tupac A. Shakur, dated July 30th, 1995, and it's witnessed by none other than Desiree Smith, who was one of Tupac ride or die females, girlfriends, if you will. On this photo right here, you can basically see Desiree at Dannemora on October 7th, 1995, her Big Syke and Tupac. And then on this next picture right here, you can basically see Desiree, another young lady, on October 1st, 1995. Now, why is this letter important? Now, you've had people like Reggie Wright Jr. come out and tell you that they believe Tupac's words. You know, when he said that, yeah, Suge, hey, Don, he come bail me out and so on and so forth and do this, that, and the other. Yeah, I believe Tupac's words too. But I also know that Tupac was going with a program, basically. He wasn't supposed to say anything other than that based on the fact that that's what it was supposed to appear to be, that Suge Knight had got him out of jail. You know how I know that? Because Tupac signed the bail agreement. Do you get it? So Tupac told the public, yeah, I talked to Suge, yeah, Don, get me out and so on and so forth and all of this, Tupac was kicking game, right? To the public. That's what he was supposed to do. But you know how I knew or know that he knew that wasn't true? Because he signed the bail agreement with the bail guarantee. Because he signed the bail agreement giving Atlantic and Interscope the power of attorney. You can simply see through what people want you to believe based on the fact that they want you to believe they had something to do with something that they didn't have anything to do with, right? Like I said, Tupac could have told David Kenneth that he could do this through a jailhouse conversation, but it wouldn't have worked. You can't go to Interscope with no, Tupac told me that I could come and, look at his royalty statements and you can give me his contract. That's not going to work. You need something legal and binding. And also, when you do handwritten letters, it's always good to show that it wasn't done under duress, right? To get a witness. And DELRAY, in that case, was Tupac's witness in him writing this letter, giving David Kenneth permission to negotiate on his behalf at that particular time. So now, the ball started rolling on July 30th, 1995. Check this out. If they wanted to sign Tupac Shakur to death row, if that was really supposed to happen, they had 3 months to do it before Tupac was even let out of jail. That ought to tell you right there, it wasn't going to happen because it didn't happen in the 3 months prior to him getting out of jail. It takes 30 days at the most to write up a contract, right? But he's giving David Kenneth permission to look at his contracts and his royalty statements. Contracts with who? With Interscope, right? So Reggie Wright Jr. is trying to get you to believe something, right, in regards to Tupac that he had no information regarding. He had no information regarding this situation involving Tupac. If that was the case, he claimed that he had ran death row, right? Then he would have this information. He could bring you documentation showing you how it is, how it was, how it is, and this is what we did. He has none of that. He hasn't even shown you documentations on the deals that he has basically said that he negotiated. Which one did you negotiate? Show me where's your signature on the agreement that you said you negotiated for all of these posthumous albums of Tupac's and all of this other stuff. Show me your signature that you were that guy doing that, right? Now, the reason why I say this is because when you go to the bail agreement, right? You now see why, if Suge Knight had anything to do with Tupac getting out, then Suge Knight would have also been given the power of attorney, like Interscope, like Atlantic, right? He wasn't, because he didn't put up the money. They wanted to make it look like they did for public relations. That's what Interscope wanted to do. And Suge went along with it. Suge gets props. No, by no means does Suge get left out of this story. He played an integral part in this story. And it probably wouldn't have happened if Suge Knight didn't have death row. Or it might have happened where Tupac was going to be released under another label that they might have been close to and say, hey, you'll go over here and you'll record over here, from that perspective. But death row was fitting and it worked perfectly, if you will. But see, this is the thing I want you understand the most. So now, what Tupac said to the public versus what Tupac knew and he signed behind closed doors, right? Tupac knew that he gave up power of attorney. Did he tell the public that? No. Tupac knew that he basically signed over the rights to his publishing and his record label at that particular time out the gutter to Interscope and Atlantic. Did he tell the public? No. Because some things are not made for public consumption in regards to that. Now, That's the reason why I showed you just recently the letter with Tupac Shakur firing Reggie Wright and his security firm on August 27th, 1996, the same day that he fired David Kenner. The reason why I showed you that and I bring you this letter here is based on the fact you're going to see where all of the alleged fraud came into play, the mismanagement came into play, and the straight out misrepresentation of Tupac Shakur and his rights. Check this out. So now, Reggie Wright Jr. chose to go with the lie in regards to saying that he didn't receive the letter that Tupac fired him on that date. I didn't get it, is what he said. And the proof that I didn't get it was because we were still around Tupac. So he must have changed his mind. This is what he said about Tupac, right? How do you know Tupac changed his mind about something that you didn't receive? Number one. Number two, when you chose to go with the lie and saying that you didn't receive the letter that Tupac sent, you have now boxed yourself in with that lie throughout history now. You say, well, how is that, DELRAY? Check it out. So now, you didn't receive the letter. Your security company was still securing Tupac in New York, you said. Your security company was still securing Tupac in Vegas, you said, right? But hold on. We know that not to be true. Because if that were true, then Tupac Shakur would most likely still be alive. Tupac Shakur would have never been able to get into a fight with Orlando Anderson if he had adequate security. Tupac Shakur would have never been in the car with Suge Knight if he had adequate security. Right? So now, with that lie, you have now made yourself complicit, not in any kind of setup or any kind of, crazy way about how, people say, yeah, he set up Tupac and all. But you have now made yourself complicit by being the one who was in head of the company that was supposed to protect Tupac Shakur, but didn't. So it was on your watch through your security company, right, that you did not handle your business. So therefore, you are partially responsible for the death of Tupac Shakur. From that perspective, not any other perspective, from not adequately protecting Tupac Shakur. That buck stops with Reggie Wright Jr. You wear that for the rest of your life. Period. You can't run away from that based on the fact that you said that you didn't get the letter, that you were still protecting Tupac in New York, and you still were protecting Tupac in Vegas. But we know that Frank Alexander was the only one there. And we also know that Michael Moore, through his own words, if we believe in people and what the words that they're saying, right, according to Reggie, was pulled off of Tupac and told to come to 662, right? But let me give you the flip side if you chose to go with the truth, Reggie Wright Jr. If you chose to go with the truth and just admitted that, you know what, I did receive the letter, in which you really did, you know you did, right? But you had a problem with that because you thought that by you admitting that you would somehow seem incompetent, right? Which it would have worked in reverse. The truth would have worked more favorable for your argument. For remember, you committed yourself to the lie. But let me show you how the truth would have been more favorable to your argument. First and foremost, by you saying simply, yes, I did receive the letter of Tupac no longer wanting my company to secure him. I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity in being able to secure him for as long as I did. And basically, what happened was Tupac did find something positive in us representing him as one of my guards. Frank Alexander, he had chose to be his personal bodyguard and to go along with him. So I'm blessed in that fact that he did that. And also, it's unfortunate, but if we would have still been employed by Tupac and not have been fired, I could have guaranteed you that we would have protected Tupac, and none of what happened involving Orlando Anderson would have happened under my security's watch, as you've seen for the time that we were with Tupac, that nothing ever like this ever happened before in regards to him. That's how it could have worked out in a positive manner by you admitting to that you had got that letter that Tupac had fired you and your security company on August 27, 1996. But you chose to go with the lie. You see how that works? So now, when we talk about in totality what people say versus what you can prove, right? With documentation. That's why documentation is so important, right? Frank Alexander basically said he got the letter. He told the truth. I went to Tupac. I asked him, "Hey, Pac, what's up with this letter? You firing me?" "Nah, Frank, you going with me." And you know that Tupac liked Frank. Like I said, the night that we were at the Hollywood Athletic Club, Frank was with him that night, right? Now, you know that Frank liked Tupac based on the fact that he could approach him and ask him, "Hey, man, what's up with this? I thought we had, a relationship," right? That's somebody that you trust, that trusts you, that you can go and ask him that question, right? So now, when you deal with the big picture, I get it. I see why now Reggie would call me a groupie. Because guess what? He called Frank Alexander the same thing. He said Frank was acting more like a groupie than a security guard. Why? Reggie is an extremely jealous and vindictive individual. One minute he talks positive about you, and then he comes and says something incendiary about you. And that's the thing, like I said, once again. So now, what Reggie Wright basically did was what we call an unsolicited lie. He lied about something that he didn't even have to lie about. You get it? So now, once again, let's talk about the running of Death Row. We know you didn't run Death Row. We know, based on court documents, Suge Knight basically said that from 1996 until 2001, and here it is, that Miss Chalet was the president of Death Row. Reggie Wright has went on online, YouTube, and other platforms a numerous amount of times basically stating that he ran Death Row at one point. He did not. Reggie Wright was Miss Chalet's driver. Reggie Wright was a liaison, an intermediate, the middle guy, and so on and so forth, and to say that you ran Death Row, you couldn't cut checks, you couldn't sign contracts, and if you could, please show us the contracts that you've signed. These are facts, guys. This is documentation. This is court testimony. This is a letter. This is Tupac's agreement. This is Tupac's handwritten signing, saying something is legal and binding, because that's how you do business. I'm not talking about what somebody can come and tell you out their mouth. Do you have it in writing? Is what they usually ask you when you start talking about how much authority you have and the things that you can and can't do. Can I see that in writing? Is what they asked you. So, like I said before, nothing but facts, nothing but truth. Straight game. Your boy DELRAY. Straight game.